let's chat about our finances. My mom never liked the idea of having to go ask my father for money. I just thought, you know what, let me start a YouTube channel.
Like, I didn't even have money for gas at the time.
How my parents handled me wanting to marry somebody who was like literally a takeout boy.
I don't want to be that dad that's like always working, and I'm not there for my kids. Find out what you love doing and just figure out a way to make money out of it.
We would not have been able to get to our goals or to get to where we are without the other person.
Why do you need a gigantic house if you're by yourself?
The goal is not for me to convince you guys to get married. I just want to say, like, this is not a reason to be scared. We're just here to tell you that it's so beautiful to start from nothing together. Hey babes, what's up? It's Haley.
And
Welcome back to officially the third episode of our Hey Babes podcast.
it's the third, babe. It's the second one.
Really?
It's the second episode. The first one was a Q&A that doesn't
guys,
really
my
count.
pregnancy brain is already seeping in.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because I'm currently 18 months pregnant. 18 months. Currently 8 months pregnant. I don't think this is off to a great
pregnancy brain is
start.
going to get worse each and every episode until she gives birth.
But today's video is actually a really exciting one. I feel like we dwelled a little bit into it in our first Q&A, and we're going to be talking about everything to do with finances. Yeah. Finances as a single couple, finances once we got engaged, once we got married, our whole experience, our like job history, and kind of like our perspective, I think, on getting married, whether it be at a young age or an older age, at a certain point in your life. Because Eran and I always hear from people that I'm not financially ready, I'm not financially stable to get married.
Yeah, like, oh, when I get married, that's when, you know, like when I have a house, when I'm financially stable, when I have my business running, or when I finish school and I have a job, then I'll get married.
That's the point, I'll be ready to get married.
Yeah.
So we definitely have a lot of opinions on that, and maybe a little bit of advice that you guys can find useful as well.
Yes,
because
but before that, we
Yeah.
want to thank you guys so much.
Right.
For the first episode and all the positive impact.
Insane.
It was crazy.
It was honestly insane. We got over 1,000 views, which I'm
Yeah.
surprised. If you guys are watching these videos and you're not currently subscribed, go ahead and subscribe down below. We really want to be able to hit hopefully 1,000 subscribers by the end
Yeah.
of the first month. That would be amazing.
And for you guys might think like, but aren't you guys used to having like more? Like I was like saying, like if we get 100 subscribers, like
Yes.
I'm gonna be like
very
shocked.
happy.
And we got like over 500. I'm like, if we get 1,000 views, like I'm gonna be like shocked. And we did, like, thank God. So
Yes. But for you guys
really
who are
happy.
also not people who like to watch videos in
Yes.
podcast form, you like audios, we are now live. I'm so happy to say we are live on Apple Podcasts. We're live on Spotify. I'm going to try to get listed on Google as well. I think we're also on Amazon. You guys could type in Hey Babes Podcast or Haley's Corner Podcast. I feel like at that point it should pop up. But without further ado, we are so excited to have our little community grow, and we love it when you guys keep the chats going. So if at any point we say anything, you want to start a conversation, be sure to leave a comment down below. And if you are just listening to the audio version of this, be sure to go ahead and rate. Be honest, 5 stars if you feel like it's a 5-star
honest,
podcast.
with 5 stars.
Yeah, that would be great. But we're really excited to get into today's episode. So without further ado, let's chat about our finances. Some people say it's taboo to talk about money, but I actually think that this is one of the most important talks and conversations you can have, whether you're dating, whether you're about to get married, even once you're actually in a marriage. There's so many different things and opinions that can change. So I personally always had a job ever since I was like, I want to say 8 years old. My mom would literally pay me either to do stuff around the house, the extensive stuff. My sister, when I was 12, I remember would like hire me to like clean her friends' houses and things like that.
Yeah,
we were just kind of always implemented like to make your own money, and my mom was very into, you know, women having their own kind of pool of income, not necessarily always having to rely on the husband, and like that was just kind of the perspective that we always had. So I always had some odd jobs here and there. My mom actually taught me how to do eyebrow threading when I was really young. It's like a generational thing. My great grandmother did it. She taught her daughter. My mom taught us. And that was actually one of my first official businesses.
And hopefully we'll teach Ali as well.
Yes.
And
but when I was 14, that's when I kind of like officially started my first business. And I was working with my mom. I was building up a clientele with like eyebrow threading and tinting and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of like how I was making money throughout school. I was doing that and babysitting. And then the first main job I had was being a server, like a waitress, a server, and the tips were great. For anyone who's like ashamed to have a server job in high school or in university, it's really the best because you get paid hourly. And on top of that, you also make a bunch of money in tips, which is awesome. So at the point that I met Eran in my life, that's what I was doing. I was like a server part-time. And YouTube was not a thing in my life yet. So we're definitely going to get into how all of that came to be a little bit later.
Yeah. And now for my bibliography. Yeah, I think Haley and I both have very similarities in terms of our families both wanted to teach us, I guess, to be you know, responsible with our money and know the value of money. And like, if you want to get something, you have to work for it. Like, even for me, like, I didn't have that many jobs before I moved to Toronto. I worked as like a counselor, like with kids. I did some sort of personal training here and there, but I always did work for what I wanted. And even when I wanted to get a car, my dad's like, no problem, you want to get a car, go get a job, and pay for your monthly expenses, which is what I did.
So I started my YouTube channel before I got married. I was a student in school. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I went to university for marketing and communications. Honestly, my dream job was to be like an art director. If you guys saw the movie Friends with Benefits, he had like that position at the magazine where he kind of like came up with the creative shoots and what to put on the front page and all that stuff. Like, that would have been my ideal job. So I was going to school en route of having something like that.
I thought I thought your dream job was to do that thing in the mall.
Oh, also that.
Like to decorate.
I
the
always
front of the
wanted
mall
to decorate
window.
the front of displays, like in stores. You know, when you guys walk down New York or whatever and you see these incredible creative displays for different stores. That was another job that I
I
always
didn't even
really
know that was
wanted
a
to have.
job. I was like, serious? How
I
did the
know.
employees do
Somebody
that? Like,
does it. Somebody
Yeah.
does it. But anyway, with that being said, once I was going into my 3rd or 4th year, I was already starting to realize, like, damn, this program's got tons of students, like thousands of students in my university alone. Can you imagine, like, how many students are in the other universities who are in the same program, all going to be competing for the same jobs? So at this point, I'm like, okay, what can I do to maybe make myself stand out, make myself be different from all these other people? And at that point, I was very into YouTube, like just to watch as a subscriber myself. And Eran always loves YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So then I always thought, I'm like, I wonder if I can do this myself. So I just thought, you know what, let me start a YouTube channel. I have a digital camera, like one of those little point and shoot digital cameras that my mom had. It was like a red Canon camera or something.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, okay, like let's try and like let's see how it is. If anything, it's just gonna be something cool to put on my resume to like make me different from all these other applicants. That was really the only reason that I started. Never, as much as I knew that people can like really form a job and make money out of it, like I never thought that that would be something I can aspire to or get
yeah,
to.
like when Haley started her YouTube channel, it was never with the intention that like I want to make money out of this, I want to be a YouTuber. It was literally for the mere fact of she just wanted to have something to separate her when she applied for a marketing job, and then just be like, if I can market myself and have like 1,000, 2,000 subscribers, and I can market you guys.
Definitely. So with all of that, I started the channel, and slowly I saw that I was actually really enjoying it myself. Like video editing was something that I was very passionate about, and slowly the channel was growing, but like very slowly. It's always like that in the beginning, especially when people always ask me how is it to start a channel. The first year or two, like it's a grind. Like it's really not easy. You
Like-
gotta pull through it. You gotta make a lot of content. You gotta post. Even if the subscribers are not growing, don't let it discourage you. Like you really just gotta keep at it.
Yeah, you have to give it like your all with
Yeah.
the video, and you just have to keep pushing. How long did it even take you to get like 5,000 subscribers?
I don't even
1,000
remember, but it
subscribers?
maybe at least 6 months to hit like 1,000 subscribers, I think.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I remember that it really kind of like became a priority in my life. Like I remember I would be in my university lecture halls editing videos while I'm sitting in a lecture. So I was literally like, I don't even know why I was there. I was just editing my videos. It's funny because someone actually commented, I think about a year ago in one of my videos saying, oh my gosh, I used to sit behind you in university classes, and she's like, I used to watch you editing your videos, and I can't believe like you're officially a YouTuber now. It's crazy. So when she heard that, like it really brought me back when she told me about that. But anyway, my whole point being that I kind of like fell into my job in a way. Like it wasn't my intention to create this, you know, whole business around YouTube and all these kind of things. It just kind of like happened because I saw that it was growing. So I'm like, you know what? Once I graduated school, I didn't let myself drop out because I was like, listen, I already completed 3 years. As much as I could make like a lot of money on YouTube, if I drop out right now, it just didn't make sense for me.
Yeah, and I know we both
I wanted to
discussed how like
finish
just
it.
finish your degree. Like you have 1 more year left. Like why not? Just to have it, just in case. Like have it as a backup. And
Right.
like I wanted at least one of us in our family to have a degree.
'Cause Evan
I didn't
doesn't.
finish. I went to school for a year and I
Yes.
dropped out because I was in school to learn how to open up a business in Toronto, and at the time it was like $7,000 a semester, so it's like 14,000 Canadian for a year, and I was paying money to learn how to open up a business. And I remember like I finished 6 months, like a
First semester,
semester,
yeah.
and I'm just like I didn't learn anything,
And on
we
top of
just
that,
wasted that much
Evan,
money.
we kind of like agreed last podcast that you were in Canada more to have like
Yeah.
your visa. You were here as a student because that was
Yeah.
kind of the only way you'd be able to be here. But like you didn't have a passion for school at all.
Yeah, and I just realized I'm like, listen, like my dream is I want to do personal training at the time. And I was like, I want to open up my own business. So I remember I told my parents, I'm like, I'm taking a semester off. I went to go actually start my personal training business and didn't look back ever since. But it took a while to get to that point because I was doing a little bit of personal training in Miami, and then I moved to Canada.
Before you even had your personal training business, I want to remind everybody, Eran has been through it. When he first moved to Canada, obviously he didn't have any official work set up. He was staying by a family friend, but he still needed like some pocket money for like everyday expenses.
How am I gonna take her on a date? Like if she, like,
or pay for gas or anything like that.
It was to the point that I didn't even have money for gas at the time. And again, I was so stubborn. I didn't want to ask my parents for help because I didn't want to seem like I'm a failure, because I'm like, I'm gonna go to Canada on my own. I'm gonna do my thing. Like, don't worry, I don't need your help.
You're trying to
whatever.
Prove yourself.
I was trying to prove myself in a way, because in the end of the day, like, especially after a certain age, like, you know, thank God, like, your parents make a name for themselves and they support you, and you want to be able to do the same. And especially with all the responsibilities of, like, you know, he wants to get married, he wants to take care of a family. Like,
we
how
have
is
to
he gonna
show that we can do it.
Yeah, so I wanted to show I can do it.
He literally took on, I remember for that first year, every possible job he can.
I started off in construction, making doors,
like windows and doors. He was literally like
doors. I worked out in the summer. I worked as like a takeout person at a shawarma place. I worked as a shampoo boy,
like literally shampooing
hair salon, like
all these women's
hairs. I did a terrible job, by the way. I always left like soap right here, and I didn't do a good job. After like 1 month, I'm like, this is not for me.
Yeah, he worked at a pizza place. Like, you were really running around.
I did a lot of jobs. I was a delivery person. Like, I delivered things. Like,
oh, you also, I remember that one of like your neighbors, their father, I remember, was like, he had to do dialysis. He had to dialysis,
so I would drive.
He would drive into the hospital to like have this guy have his like dialysis procedures done.
Yeah.
I remember you really took on every single job. So basically, a lot of people, I'm pretty sure, are really curious at like how my parents handled me wanting to marry somebody who was like literally a takeout boy. And I know that it doesn't sound great or whatever, but like,
you got a lot of benefit from that place. You got a lot of good food.
I got a lot of free food.
We honestly got like shawarma wraps, chicken wings. We didn't go out to eat for so long when I worked like a year and a half in that shawarma joint.
Yeah. So that was like a benefit for us for sure. But what I do remember is a conversation that we kind of had with my parents, that my father had like the first official talk with you, and he sat you down. He was just kind of like, what are your intentions with my daughter? No, I'm kidding. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like Godfather Mafia style.
They were just like, listen, like, we know you care for our daughter, and, you know, like, we just care that she's happy. But we also have to be parents to understand, like, what is your plan? Like, you're not in school, you know, you don't have a job. Like, and at the time, I remember I was like, oh, I'm gonna work at the shawarma place, and I'll become a manager and whatever. But it's not what I wanted to do. I remember I talked to my boss. He's like, I'm not giving you a raise. If you want, you can hand in your 2 weeks notice, whatever. Because I was doing so many responsibilities of a manager, but I wasn't getting paid like one. So I just got so fed up, and I'm like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to quit this job before I get married, and then I'm going to open up my business.
Well, that's what you told my father, at least, right?
Yeah, I told him, like, this is my plan. I want to do personal training.
And I remember that my dad, for a second, like, he just didn't really fully understand it. But something that I appreciate, and I kind of wanted to quickly share this, but something I really appreciate about my father is that he had a very similar experience. When he wanted to marry my mom, he was also a student.
Yeah.
And I remember he didn't have like a steady job or anything at that point. And when he went up to his future father-in-law, like my mom's father, my grandfather, he told him, like, sat him down and asked him the same thing. Like, what's your plan with my daughter? Like, how are you going to take care of her? And as much as, like, yeah, it sounds very old school, the guy takes care of the girl, it was like a mutual thing. How are you guys going to live? Like, what is your plan? And I remember that my father answered him in a way, it was in Russian. I don't know if I can properly translate it, but it pretty much says, like, I can't promise her golden hills. I mean, it says golden hills, but in a way of like a very super luxurious, like wealthy lifestyle, but we'll have enough that we will have a very, very good life together.
Yeah.
And I think once he answered that to my grandfather, then my grandfather was just like, okay, I'm set. And something I admired so much about Eran is that he very much had the same exact answer when my father sat him down and asked, like, what is your plan for your life with my daughter? And you can tell them, like,
yeah, I just said, like, as you guys can see, like, I'm trying my best, like, work any job. Like, I did this, I did that, whatever. I'm still trying to figure out what I want, but I will do my absolute whatever I have in my power to be able to, like, sustain us and give us, like, a good life, and, like, you know, be able to support her and support our family, God willing, all that stuff. And, like, that's all he wanted to hear. He's okay. And I was like, I want to do personal training, open up my own business. And, you know, it was all good. I got the approval. But then Haley came up to me and she's like, are you gonna do it? I'm like, yeah, I will. And she's like, so what is stopping you? I remember Haley's like, you need to, like, just do it, because like I don't know what you're waiting for, because I believe in you. And she told me, she's like, I believe you can do it, but like at the end of the day, you have to believe that you can do it. Like, don't be scared. Like, get started on the course and that's it. So thank God, like I finished it. Only after I finished, I'm like, dang, that wasn't even so hard. I don't know
feel
why
like
I
it's
didn't
like
do
that
it.
with most things. I think a lot of the time people always they get so scared of just like
The idea of
something, taking that first step, and then
and they're afraid they're gonna fail. That was my
Right.
fear. I afraid I was gonna just fail the certification.
everyone's
Therefore, I
afraid
didn't
of
start
failure.
it.
Everyone's afraid of failure, and I
Yeah.
definitely think that getting actually started, you always realize that it's never as hard as you think.
Never. It's and
It's
even
never as
today's
hard
time,
as
it's
you
like
think,
that.
you know? So I'm really proud of you for actually going ahead and starting, because I remember something like you always told me, you're like, I don't want to be doing something that makes me miserable.
Yeah, you don't realize like
Yeah.
what you want to do until you do something that you hate doing. And I hated working in the restaurant business, like not even getting paid the way I should get paid, and these long hours and like customers and all that stuff. It was just really, really draining, to the point when I would come home, I didn't want to talk to anybody.
And at that
for
point,
months.
I think you wanted to do everything in your power to like build a business where you are the one who gets to make the rules. So tell people quickly how you started your personal training business and how you actually like built a clientele, because let's just say when we left Toronto, Eran was a very popular personal trainer, and I'm not trying to toot my own husband's horn, but like honestly, like
thank
you were
God.
busy. You were like, you had to start telling people like you had no time to take them on.
very,
you know?
very overwhelmed. Like I was
So
working
tell
like
people
crazy.
how you did it.
If you're good at what you do and you really like are proud of what you do, and like your value will show. This is how like God does everything within its time. So my first client that was like, I guess, the gateway into me getting multiple clients was the same person that I work with in the shawarma place that
At
I
the
worked
restaurant,
at. Yeah,
yeah.
her name is Yareen. And so I trained her. And I remember she posted a thing on Facebook saying looking for a personal trainer, and then my brother-in-law
friends,
tagged me
yeah.
in it, and then I messaged her. I'm like, yo, you know I'm a trainer. We worked together for a year and a half. Why don't you hit me up? She's like, no, because I know you. I was scared. And I'm like, don't worry. And I trained her. She had a crazy transformation. Like she lost like 30 or 40 pounds. She hated working out,
Yeah.
and she learned to love it. And because she had a crazy transformation, everybody that she knew, which she knew a lot
Started
of people,
coming to you.
started coming to me, and they're like, yo, I saw this transformation from Irina, let me come to you. And it was just word to mouth, and it started from her. So which, thank God, I'm so grateful that God sent her in my life, and she
Yes.
agreed. And then from there, it just came from this person, that person. Fast forward, I want to say, like, I started off as a mobile personal trainer going to people. I would drive like 45 minutes
In the snow,
for
I
a
remember.
$30 client.
Yeah.
Think about it. You drive 45 minutes there and back, but just to have the experience. And so you just build. And then I became so overwhelmed with mobile personal training that we built like a little a studio at Haley's parents' house.
Yeah, when we were living at my parents' house, they had they rented out like 2 floors of their bottom basement. So one of the floors, Eran asked my parents if he could actually convert that to a gym.
Yeah.
And we just didn't feel comfortable just using that space. So Eran was actually paying my
Yeah, I
parents
was
rent.
paying them like a certain amount of
We
money
weren't
for
paying
it.
rent for living with them because we were just in my old bedroom, and honestly my mom wanted us with her, like,
Yeah.
let's be real. But when it came to actually using that space, I knew that that space was part of like an income that my parents were getting. I didn't think it was fair for us to just like say
give this to
decrease
us
your
for
income,
free.
give it to us for free. So Eran actually started paying like my parents, I think it was what, like a couple $100
Yeah.
a month, just for that room so that he can have a space to start building his
Yeah.
clientele.
And then within less than a year, I grew out that space. So then we moved to a different house with a bigger first floor basement.
Yeah. And then we built a whole gym when we moved into our final house before we moved here.
Yeah.
So with all of that, it just goes to show how crazy it is that like your business slowly grows.
Yeah.
All of this happened throughout like our dating to our married life
To our
right
married.
now. And I think that's what I wanted to emphasize from his stance. He built an actual business from the ground up. When it came to me and when it came to YouTube, I remember this was literally so crazy. There was a video that I posted 5 months before we got married, and it was a skincare related video. I don't know
Yeah,
if
if
you
you guys
remember
are
it.
OG followers, you know that before Haley was the thrift girl, she was a skincare girl.
Yeah, like I had acne, and I remember clearing my acne. I had a bunch of like skincare routine videos, and like those were kind of like the first set of videos that did very well. But I'll tell you, that first initial video was it was honestly kind of like a drama video, because I was like, these skincare brands are lying to you. When I started that video, I remember I filmed it, I posted it, and it was like, I think views wise at the same as like the rest of my videos. And the way that it works with YouTube is usually a video tends to go viral kind of right away, because if people are watching it and it does very well, then YouTube pushes it out to more creators and more people. So this video was kind of stagnant for 5 months. Like nothing happened to it. It was like just regular views and everything. I remember that literally once we got married,
Yeah, we literally got
Which-
married and then we got on our flight back.
Yes. So within marriage, especially in Judaism, you guys probably hear a lot of Jews always saying Mazal Tov. Mazal Tov translates into good luck.
Like good luck, but we don't necessarily say like, oh, like luck, like it's luck. Like we know it comes from God. So it's like good, like
by you taking this step and getting married, may you have a lot of luck and a lot of success and a lot of like good
like
things.
It's
in
good
your
luck,
marriage.
but it's basically like blessings. Like you
Lots
have
of
good,
blessings
lots
in
of
your
blessings.
Exactly. So we're always told like that sometimes you may be scared to take that step and like getting married when you're young or whatever because you think you're not financially ready, maybe you're not emotionally ready, whatever it may be. But it says if it's something like financial readiness that you're scared about, take that step in marriage and just trust that God will kind of like help guide you. Obviously, like we said in the past,
Like be
have
responsible.
a plan,
Don't
be
get married at like
responsible.
15, 16 and like you don't have any like plans or whatever, stuff
Obviously.
like that. Like
But if you feel like it's something that scares you but you think you can do it, then just follow through and do with it. So I definitely feel like we saw or got that answer in real life because as soon as we got married, Egan and I got on the flight back after our wedding was over, and I remember all of a sudden just getting so many notifications and I like didn't understand why.
and Haley's like, oh my gosh, like this video is like kind of like going a little bit viral. I'm like, watch, like, it has 10K views. I'm like, which video? The one that you posted like yesterday or last week? She's like, no,
The one
this
I
video is,
posted like 5 months
ago.
old.
I'm like, that's so weird. And then we took the flight. The flight is like a 12-hour flight. Once we landed, I'm like, holy. She's like, what? And I'm like, yo, babe, it's at like 100K.
Yes.
And fast forward like a few months, like that video has like something million views.
It has over 1 million views.
But it like kick-started like the channel and like
it exposed me to a lot of new viewers, which
we
led
gained
me
like
to more
how many subscribers did we get?
a good amount.
A good amount.
A good amount.
A good amount.
And I
thank
remember
God.
like that video was kind of like what kickstarted like my YouTube. And at that point I was doing more skincare videos, and because people found me from skincare, the skincare stuff was doing really good. Slowly, as you know, I transitioned into the fashion and whatever, which was like my goal, which thank God. And now we're even like going through another transition of like including more family stuff and all that kind of stuff within it and vlogs, whatever. All that being said, it was just so crazy to me how like that success that we had within YouTube is what kind of made me decide after I graduated, I don't think I want to pursue another job. I think I want to stick with this YouTube thing and like see how it goes.
See where it takes us.
And that's really like the job that we ended up going with and we ended up sticking to. And it's crazy to look back right now and say like, now we're like a full out corporation, like Haley Inc., which is running like the YouTube.
Now I don't even do personal training anymore. I remember when I was doing personal training, I was working so much. Like I would wake up at like 5 in the morning, taking clients at 5 in the morning, and I would train all throughout the day till like 12 o'clock, back to back to back. And then I would take a little break. I would work out myself, and then I would go back again. And something I would work until like 8, 9 o'clock. And I would just be so drained. I'd work so hard. But I remember one of the reasons why I did is because at the time Haley was like we were trying to have a kid. So I was just diving myself into my work to like distract me
from the fact
that we weren't having kids. So yeah. I think that's why I worked so hard. So then it just came to the realization that like, I'm like, what I want more to have my own business is to be a dad. I want to be a husband. I want to be with my family. And so me taking the opportunity to work with Haley allows me to spend more time with Haley, allows me to spend more time with Aaliyah, with our future kids, because I don't want to be that dad that's like always working, and I'm not there for my kids' games or their, accomplishments and all that stuff, because I was just so focused.
Or like
I want to be there for them. I want them to know that I was in their life, because like growing up, my father wasn't that way. Like he was the only sole provider for the family, so he was traveling and working, whatever, and my mom was mostly with us. And I know now that I'm older that he did all this to provide food on the table. But one side of me was like, I kind of just wish that like you just forget that thing and just been there for my moments, and I want to be that person for my kids, for my wife, that to be around them and not miss these opportunities because of this job or because of this money. And that's why with personal training, I just overworked myself, and I made good money, thank God. I was making a very good income, but
it's also a job that just requires you to be there. And because you were there, you were not here.
Exactly. And what's the point of making so much money if it's not with the people that you want to use the money to spend with? Being on YouTube now, it allows us to like see each other more. It allows us to
bicker more sometimes, which is okay. But
yeah, that's why some people say like, how is it working together? Isn't it better that husband and wife don't work together? And some cases yes, some cases no. The thing is, we both have different roles.
Yeah.
We
know how to like separate it. We know how to kind of be like, okay, I need my space.
Like we're not together 24/7.
No.
Like I do my thing. Like I feel like I see her less now than in Toronto because I have other responsibilities.
Obviously, like working as a team is something that is really important. And when you're making career decisions, you always want to keep the other person in mind in terms of like, as much as I always wanted to do everything that would help him accomplish his dreams and his goals, he himself came to the conclusion of like, listen, I want to see the kind of life that I want to have with my partner. And he's like, okay, I can have a life focused on making really good money and having a successful business.
But at what expense?
But at what expense? You know, I'm not saying at all that it's somebody can either choose family or career, but he was able to choose just a different career that can accommodate both.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's why
also
it worked.
like I also just saw more potential in this, like
Yeah.
YouTube and stuff, like because Haley was just juggling everything by herself.
Which is really hard because as much as like people think, honestly, I think I would love to do, whether it's a solo episode or an episode with you, all about like how it actually is to be a YouTuber and like the job and the
Like an
requirements.
entrepreneur while being a mom and a
Yeah, like it's
wife and
definitely
everything.
a lot, and people always think that it's so easy to just put a camera in your face, you quickly edit a video and that's it, but it's like people don't know that, especially my earlier videos, I would sit down and edit videos for hours. I would spend 8 hours on my bum literally getting butt blisters because I'd be sitting for so long just editing videos because I wanted them to be the best that they could be.
Yeah.
You know? And honestly, when I was like just me and you and like we had no other responsibilities except for each other, it was like an option for me to do that. But then once we already started having like house expenses, once we already had a kid,
groceries, kids.
cleaning the house, cooking dinner, like even though we do a lot of that stuff together, it was still a lot of things that takes your time.
And as your family will grow, you literally learn like how to manage your time better.
Yes. So I think if there's anything that I learned, and I do want to give like a little shout out to a couple who I'm like very inspired by, and they're kind of like family friends of ours, and it's Gary and Valeria Lipovetsky. Something I remember, I sat down, I've known Gary ever since like I was a little girl, but I remember that I sat down with him once and we had to talk about something, and he told me that he had to teach his wife how to delegate. Meaning, as much as like you are the face of your YouTube channel and everything, because back then Valeria pretty much only had the YouTube channel, she had a lot of issues like me in the sense that she wanted to do everything by herself. And I remember that Gary just taught her like how to delegate, give off your roles to different things and different people so that you can make these investments in other people, but it will ultimately help you get to your goal better. And I think over time, Eran has become that replacement of like somebody who constantly reminds me to delegate.
Yeah.
To just kind of like, now we hire an editor so that we can have the videos going live instead of me sitting in for hours doing it, because on top of being a mom and this, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, like I had no time for myself. There's that. And then on top of that, like Eran and I are looking for a new business venture, and we started kind of looking out for another company that can maybe help us bring it to life because we just didn't know where to start. So it's like, instead of investing so much hours and so much time into this new business, not really understanding where we're going, we're like, you know what, let's pay a little bit of money maybe for somebody who can help navigate us through this.
Yeah.
In terms of getting to our goals a little bit faster. Thank God we're in a place that we can do that, you know, because not everybody has an opportunity to invest, but that's what business is. You always want to keep reinvesting back into doing things that will just make you more productive, and
but
that will
that's
make your life
after you
easier.
make some sort of like progress within the work. Like
Of
you're not gonna
course.
start a business like, okay, I'm gonna get this. No, you start off small and then you slowly like work your way up. Like when I started personal training, I started off as a mobile personal trainer, bringing like dumbbells with me, and then it got to a point where I was making enough. Thing got to make the investment to make
get
a
a
gym
space.
and buy this much money worth of equipment and all that stuff. And same idea with YouTube. Like in the beginning, you start off with a small, crappy camera, $100 camera, whatever, and then once you start making progress and it's growing, then you can make the investment on a $1,000 camera, on lights, and all this stuff. So work your way up. Don't take on too much too soon. But at the end of the day, like I think the goal is, somebody told me this, like find out what you love doing, what you're good at and you love doing, and just figure out a way to make money out of it. Because when you work and you feel like it's not a job, it's a passion. Like, listen, we could do this for free too, but we need to pay bills, and so that was the thing. Like at some point when I did personal training, I really, really loved it. But at some point it became more of work than passion. When I'm not saying that it should always feel like passion. Some days you're not going to want to work. Same idea with being a parent. Like every day, like I love being a dad, but there are some days where you say in Hebrew, like, "En li koach," like I don't have the energy to pick up my daughter and run after, but I do, because in the long term, like that's what you sign yourself up for. And it's the same idea with the job. Like, and that's the thing. I'm 26 and only now I figured out that I wanted to work with Haley in this case.
Yeah.
But before
life may
I
have
didn't.
looked very different if you would have joined me a few years ago.
Yeah.
But we know that it's all part of like the process. And I think the only reason why I brought up the whole like delegating thing is because I just sometimes realize that I think people, I mean, we always kind of revert back to relationships because I feel like that's kind of like a main thing that this podcast is surrounding. I feel like with so many people within their relationships, they constantly feel like they need to be 100% set within themselves before they can fully commit themselves to another person in terms of like sharing their life with somebody else. But I genuinely think that in us telling you kind of like a story of how both of our businesses came to be, we would not have been able to get to our goals or to get to where we are without the other person. And personal experience, even for me, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've actually almost legit quit YouTube right before it started to take off. Like, completely. I remember my father is like very, very traditional, and I remember that I uploaded my first like one of my first like morning routine videos. It was like very popular back then, and it was definitely like a different type of style of video. I was used to seeing it because I was watching YouTubers, but like my sisters, my mom, my dad were just like, they saw this and they're like, what are you doing? Like my dad especially is like, why are you just trying to like pull attention to yourself? Why are you filming yourself making breakfast? Like, why do you feel like people need to see the stuff about you? I didn't know if it was like a privacy thing or like a modesty thing. They didn't grow up
in that way. It's kind of like you're trying to like, it's kind of like when people like go on social media, they try to show off
look
like
at me,
what
look
they
at me.
whatever.
You know,
like now it's really normal to do that, but back in those times, it wasn't a normal thing.
My father wasn't understanding what it is that I was doing, and because I'm such a people pleaser, which we talked about in the last episode, I really wanted to like please my dad. I didn't like the fact that he was like thinking this way about me, and I was just like, okay, then I'll stop. Like, I'm going to quit. So me and Eran were married already at this point. And I remember that Eran took me into the room privately. He sat me down and he's just like, okay, tell me how you feel. I shared all of my feelings and he's like, okay, like, this is not a reason for you to quit. He's like, because one person disapproves, you're going to quit. Because one person is going to tell you now that what you're doing is not right or it's not okay, you're going to quit. Especially somebody who's like not in this business to understand it. And as hard as it was for me, that was such a long conversation.
Yeah,
it took a lot for him to convince me not to stop and for me to keep going. And he even together with my dad like tried to explain the situation to him, said, listen, like there's potential here. I know it's very hard to understand. But Eran literally told my father like, Haley has the potential to go so far with this. And I feel like that's something that I really needed.
Yeah.
Because if I did not have that, I would literally, like you said, scared of failure, scared of people judging you, scared of all of these things. Like I would have backtracked for sure. So that's an example of how Eran, as a partner, was able to push me to achieve those career goals. And then vice versa with me and him, like we were talking about before, I was the one that was just like, why aren't you starting your personal training? And every time he was already to level up, I was like, okay, let's look at like, what's the next step? You're clearly outgrowing this place. Let's think about the next step.
Yeah.
Those were all mutual couple decisions.
We were always looking out for each other. We were always looking at how to make each other better. Like I was always trying to seek what can we do to make your business and everything better, and you were trying to look for me what can make my business better. And then it got to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna go full in on with you because this is gonna be our business. And like we said from our previous videos in the past, like this is our business. Like no, there's no mine or your money or your business, our business. Like her debts or my debt. And that's the thing, we started our businesses. Like I remember I started my personal training business when we got married, and then we paid off our student loans, so we're back to zero. I'm like, all right, it's okay. If we can make it this much through God's help, we can make it again. And we did, thank God. And we moved out of Haley's parents' house and we rented somewhere. And then we got our own house and we moved here. And like, it just goes to show that like when you have each other and you have each other's backs and you guys are each other's support systems, you can accomplish so much. And that's why God, like if one of the reasons why you're afraid to get married, and I had so many friends like this, so many clients like this, that they were like, I had friends that they were with their significant other for so many years, and the girl is like, listen, like I want to take our relationship to the next step, like like we're in a culture where in order to live together you need to get married, and we're already together for 3 years, like give engagement and give some sort of promise. And the guy's like, until I start my business and it takes off and I'm making over $300,000 a year, I'm not gonna propose. And the girl's like, okay, so fine, I'm out. And then the guy is miserable. He makes his money, but he's like, I lost the girl. He's like, I missed it. And that's the thing. Like, in the end of the day, if you're gonna rely on money to be the sole thing why you're gonna get married, it's not worth it. And don't get married obviously for money. But at the end of the day, like you can succeed with each other. When you get married, you build together, you build a home together, you build a foundation together.
And that's what I always like literally strive when it comes to explaining this to new couples. like we said, the number one thing you always hear is, I want to have my own car, I want to have my own house, I want to have a stable salary or whatever before I get married. I want to be established. When it comes to a person establishing themselves in that way, it's great. Okay, you have a house, you have a car, you have a salary. I don't want to say this, but it's like, what do you need your partner for at the end of the day? Because I just feel like if you're trying to become a whole ass person before getting married, then you don't need that other person to make you feel whole. Like, that's kind of all I'm trying to say. Yeah. I feel like what I love about marriage and about coming together and about a couple uniting is that you bring what you have to the table, I bring what I have to the table, and we kind of build off of it together, you know? We're like launching our careers together. The fact that we were able to buy our house together, we were able to buy our first car together. Like, not only is financially it's so great to have another shoulder to kind of like lean on in your harder times, but at the same time, it's like it makes you so much stronger as a couple.
Yeah. You will be successful because the thing is, God will not bless you with certain things if you don't need it. Yeah. Why do you need a gigantic house if you're by yourself? God will bless you with what you need. Every day that goes by, God gives you the tools for that day to accomplish that day. And any challenges that occurred to you in the past or even now is to shape you for the future. So same thing with us. Like, God would not have blessed us with a house if we didn't need it. When we get married and we have a kid, God says, okay,
now you need it.
Now you have a kid. I'm going to bless you with a house because you need it now. You know, you have expenses, you have this stuff, you need to buy groceries, you need to support your kids, you need to support your wife. I'm going to give you the parnasa, which is, I'm going to give you the funds to be able to do that. You don't need that much money when you're by yourself.
Listen, a lot of that obviously is like just based on our faith and what we believe.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that I want you guys to take from these podcasts, not every episode is going to be talking about relationships and marriage and whatever. Because the goal is not for me to convince you guys to get married. Like, that is not our goal. My goal is just, if you are somebody who finds yourself in a situation where that is what you want, but you're scared for these reasons, I just want to say, like, this is not a reason to be scared. Or not at least to take the first step. And like we've said in the past, sometimes you're going to have to make sacrifices. I mean, listen, when Eran and I were engaged, and I mentioned this before, I had a $7,000 debt in my account as like a student that I was going to pay off slowly, but then Eran came in and he's just like, here babe, I have a little bit of savings, let's use those savings to pay off your debt, and then that way we can kind of like start fresh together. We were not even married at this point yet, and then Eran was willing to go ahead and say, here, take my $7,000, pay off your student debt, so that once we get married we can start off with a nice fresh clean slate together. And that was honestly like one of the best, most encouraging things for me, because I felt like, okay, he's helping me so that we can start our life and start rebuilding together. Yeah. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to your everyday relationship struggles. Like, leaning on each other, getting to your goals because you have a person to support you and help you get there, I personally think makes the experience better. It makes the experience easier. Yeah. And it makes it more valuable, because now I look at Hey Babes, I look at Haley's Corner, I look at my YouTube channel, I look at our house, and I'm like, wow, this is something that Eran and I did together. Like, the channel would not have been what it is without you. And this podcast would not even exist. Obviously, it would not be without Haley also, you know, face of the play. But I'm just saying, like, as much as you guys, even with the YouTube, may see only my face and only see me on the videos and whatever, for me to show up for work and for me to turn on that record button, for me to go ahead and edit the videos and have the ideas and whatever, he's literally everything to do with that. He's the one that literally makes sure that when I wake up in the morning, I'm in a good mood. He's the one that gives me the ideas. He's the one that encourages me to keep going whenever I'm having my rough days, because everybody's got rough days, you know? So sometimes, again, I'm not trying to tell anybody like you can't feel whole, you can't feel complete without a partner. But I'm just saying, if you do have a partner in your life and you're like, oh, I'm only going to get married 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line once everything is established, we're just here to tell you that it's so beautiful to start from nothing together and build your life together.
But not necessarily, it doesn't have to be necessarily also a partner. Like, even just the type of people you surround yourself by. Just having a support system from your siblings, from your friends. Like,
it's all about who you surround yourself with. And I definitely feel like sometimes the friends that you choose, like we said, it doesn't have to be a partner. Just make sure that you're surrounded by people who will encourage you and bring you up. Like, I had some people that whenever I mentioned having the YouTube channel, all I heard was, but there's so many people out there doing YouTube. It's so saturated. How are you ever going to grow? How are you going to make money out of this? You know, like,
even personal training.
Yeah, with personal training.
In my culture, like in the family community that I grew up in, everybody was, I guess, like doing different things, like doing jewelry and whatever. And that's my family business, I guess, from my father's side. And I was the first one that was like, I'm going to do personal training. Everybody thought just because I knew how to add music onto an iPod or something, I was going to Harvard. Like I was the next Bill Gates. That was like the immigration world. Like because I knew how to work a computer, unplug and plug in a Wi-Fi modem, I was the next, Steve Jobs. And I told my parents, like, I'm going to do personal training. My dad's like, what? What is personal training? There's no money in that. Because they thought you had
so much potential to do
Go
something.
to Harvard. I'm like, Papa, you know what Harvard is? Like, it doesn't work. That people were telling me all this stuff. And then I remember my dad was not happy with it in the beginning. And then afterwards, he's like, listen, if you're really passionate about it, go all the way with it. Like, go all the way with it and don't go back.
Put your all into it.
Yeah, and at some point, I wanted to revert back. And I was telling my dad, like, Papa, like, I call my dad Papa, by the way. That's just how we grew up. And I told him, like, because my dad was starting a different business. And at the time, I was living in Toronto. And my dad's like, okay, maybe you can work for me if, you're still trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and job. And I'm like, okay, no problem. He's like, okay, no, but it requires you to move back to Miami. And I'm like, but I don't want to move back to Miami. Like, my life is in Toronto. So he's like, okay, so then like you said, you want to go all the way with the fitness thing. Do it. And then it kind of like, at one point I was kind of like annoyed. I'm like, wow, my own dad doesn't want to help me, but he wasn't doing it to like go against. He was trying to push me in a way of like, you really believed in this at some point, go all the way with it. And thank God, if it wasn't for that, who knows if I would have went all the way with the personal training and stuff like that.
I love that so much. And honestly, it actually makes me want to talk a little bit about like how much I think it's important what our parents also instill in us as people as we grow up, because whether there's like a lot of parents here, if there is, comment down below. I want to know who here is a parent or in that stage of life. But even if not, I learned so many lessons from my parents that I want to take like as we grow our family into our future kids. Even before I was even married, I was like, I love that my parents did this and I want to do this with my own kids. So I remember, obviously our parents went through a bunch of immigrations, like on both sides. Bukharians, the way it worked is we started off in Uzbekistan, and then after that they went as refugees to Israel, and then after that Eran's parents went to the US, and then my parents came to Canada. They went through like 3 immigrations in their life, and every single time they moved to a new place they really started from zero, which I admired so much about them. And they started from zero with a family, like not even as a single couple. Like my parents came to Canada, let's say, they already had 3 kids, some teenagers, I was 5. And I remember my mom said I think they had like $500 in their pockets. I remember they slept on the floor for a little while. Then they tried to get like secondhand furniture. My mom started like eyebrows was obviously a skill that she had. She didn't need a language for that. So she started promoting her eyebrows business. She was taking clients at home, and then she taught it to my sisters. And like slowly they worked their way up. What I always admired so much about my family is that they were able to always work for themselves. My mom never liked the idea of having to go ask my father for money. Like she didn't want the credit card to belong to somebody else, that she has to be like, if I want to buy myself a pair of boots, husband, can I buy this? Like she just wanted to have the freedom to make financial decisions on her own. The small ones, at least the ones for herself. She's like, I want to be able to go to a grocery store and literally buy what I want without having to think twice. My oldest sister, when she started school, she's 10 years older than me. So she's gone through life and all of its errors and all of its trials before us. Every mistake she's done, we've learned from. Irit, I love you. Because of that, we were able to take away a lot from it, thank God. But I remember when she started university, I guess my parents hopped on this bandwagon that everybody provides for their children's university. Like, what's it called? Tuition. So my parents paid for my sister's first semester. And I remember that my dad would always say that he just saw my sister like on the couch, didn't really look like she was putting an effort into her schooling or into her studies or whatever. And it really started to like irk them. They're like, we're paying so much money and she's not even taking school seriously. After that, my father decided to tell her, yeah, we're not going to be paying for your school anymore.
You're on your own.
You're on your own. If you want to continue it, then go ahead. Which for my sister, I remember she told me that she was like crying about it. She's like, what? All of my friends, their parents pay for their tuition. Like, how could you do this to me? Yeah. So that's exactly what my father did. He said, you're going to school for you. You're not going to school for us. So you can go ahead and take a loan and you can pay it off yourself. And I remember my sister told me that she took it really hard in the beginning. But at some point, that's what she did. She got a job. She was taking hours like serving as a waitress, making her money and tips. And slowly she was paying for her own school. And she said because that she was paying for her own school, she said all my grades and everything I was working towards was kind of like my own responsibility. It was for nobody else. With that, my father and my mom kind of kept it consistent that they wouldn't pay for our school like for any of us. They're like, whatever decision you decide to make, whether that's going to school or not going to school, you're going to be funding it yourself.
We want to be able to, God willing, to help our kids as much as we can. We want to be able to have the blessing that God gives us financially to be able to, pay for certain things for our kids and give them a better life than what we have. But at the same time, we're also have to find the fine line of teaching them responsibility, so
And spoiling them.
not spoiling them, making them learn the value of money and being able to, like, I want our kids to get jobs at the age of 15, 16. If our kid comes to us and they're like, I want you to,
I want a new phone.
I want a new phone, I want a car. All right, so work for here, do this, do that, get this job. If like, but you have the funds to pay for it. I'm like, I know I have the funds to pay for it, but you need to get a job. And that was how my family was with me. That's how Haley's family was with her. You wanted something, go work for it. Even my dad, I'm like, oh, it's my house. My dad's like, no, this is my house. You're just living here. It's not your thing, you know?
Definitely.
Even though I'm always welcome, but at the end of the day, it's my parents' house. And that's the idea that you want to have. Like, in the end of the day, like, all the things we have are blessings from God, but you also want to teach your kids that, like, you need to the value of money, the value of work, to be able to be independent. So when they do get to our stage of life, they'll understand, okay, this is what it is to pay taxes and pay bills and time management and saving and do this, like, because being an adult is hard.
It's hard, and I feel like the only reason why we're kind of able to slowly somehow navigate through it is because we both have parents who always encouraged
siblings,
us.
well, her siblings that are older, that kind of like are that big brother sister figure to guide us. Okay, this is how you go about a mortgage, and this is how you go about taxes, and
which honestly, it would be really great, I think, to also make a podcast all about the things that they don't teach you in school that would be so beneficial in life. Because how many of you guys watching, you could let us know in the comments, how many of you guys watching actually know how to go about getting a mortgage, actually know how to go about paying taxes? How do you know, like, how do you actually go about interest and rates and like all these kind of things? There's like credit history, applying for a credit card, credit history. How does it work? I mean, I feel like I was lucky enough to have my two amazing older sisters that were able to just teach me so much. And like we said in our last podcast, we really want this to be a space where we can kind of like talk about the things that we love that our siblings spoke to us about, or our parents spoke to us about, or our cousins spoke to us about and taught us about. Because I know that not everybody's got that in their life, you know, like a big brother or a big sister. Yeah. As much as we're married, let us be your big brother and sister.
Big brother, big sister, you know? Your friend, your bestie, whatever you guys need us to be, we'll be there just to make.
And take everything we say with a grain of salt, because like we said, our experience is so specific to us. But that's why this podcast has our names in it, because we like to share our experiences. If you feel like there's something that you can take value in, then definitely take it. If there's something you don't agree with, obviously no hard feelings. I mean, I don't agree with every single thing my sister tells me either, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like this was actually a really nice talk. It was a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, kind of. That's a conversation, though. That's what when you have this whole podcast is meant to have a conversation. If you guys are here right now, like you guys are sitting right here with us, and we're talking. When you're conversating with people, it's not organized and you have a timeline, whatever. Like very organic and just all over the place and whatever. Because that's the whole about this podcast is to have a conversation with you guys, because you guys are family. You guys are part of the crew.
I know.
Hey Babes crew.
Hey Babes crew. And I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. I feel like there's even more that we can go in with finances, but we're really just trying to keep these first few episodes being like really introductory things. Kind of like introductory to our marriage, introductory to our finances, introductory to our intimate life at some point. Like there's a lot of things that we could even talk about that are kind of like a little start, and then we can dwell into things a little bit deeper in the future. But I hope that you guys really enjoyed this video. Yes. Like it. Subscribe down below if you are watching this on YouTube, or just follow our podcasts if you are listening.
Yes. Thank you guys all so much for the love and support. We're so excited that we have our second episode.
Comment down below if you are watching up to this point. Comment down below cha-ching.
Cha-ching.
If you are watching up to this point, you're the real MVP. You are the real one. I really, really love the ones, especially the ones who stay all the way until the end. It really means a lot. But we love you guys so much forever and always, and we can't wait to see you and chat with you in our next one. Let us know down below what that topic should be. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.